We're going to hell.
Hey guys, it's Streed. Today I'm going to be reviewing the 1990 Stephen King movie, Graveyard Shift.
Graveyard Shift was directed by Ralph S. Singleton. It starred David Andrews, Stephen Matchett, and Brad Dourif. The film was about a drifter named John Hall who applies for a job in a dilapidated textile mill. The mill is infested with rats, and a health inspector arrives, threatening to shut down the mill if the basement isn't cleaned. So Warwick, the abrasive foreman, forces all of his workers to clean the place up in exchange for extra pay. But once in the basement, they come across a disgusting bat-like creature that's responsible for the mill's mysterious deaths. They become trapped in the caverns below the basement and must face off against the beast while it stalks them. This was adapted from Stephen King's short story of the same name. Reportedly, Stephen King despised this movie, calling it a quick exploitation picture. Keep in mind, this is coming from the same guy who hated Kubrick's adaptation of The Shining, a film still being analyzed to this day. I first saw Graveyard Shift on the When Animals Attack Volume 2 DVD. I think Graveyard Shift is a severely misunderstood film. The creature effects are very well done, with the bad creature having a repulsive, slimy appearance. While it's not extremely complex, the film reeks of a distinctly filthy atmosphere that makes it more immersive and enjoyable, while we actually root for our characters to outwit and survive this ghastly, vicious, cave-dwelling creature.
Another trip down memory lane. I watched this when I was around 11 or 12, and like I said, I watched it on the When Animals Attack DVD, Volume 2, and when I first watched this, I loved it so much, but that fucking bat creature scared the shit out of me. Honestly, I had a bit of a hard time watching this, and you gotta think, I watched a lot of crazy shit when I was younger that scared me a little bit, but didn't faze me as much. But this fucking bat thing was it was horrifying. I'm not even really that scared of bats, but the size of it, the noises it made, how weird it moved, and how wrinkly and creepy it looked, like, ugh. Tell me you wouldn't be scared watching that at like 11 or 12. That thing is horrifying. This is a criminally underrated movie. It does not get enough attention. In fact, there's a whole dedicated hate towards this movie. There's like a whole group dedicated to hating this movie, and I don't understand why. There are plenty of movies that warrant the hate. They warrant being forgotten and hated, but this is not one of them. This is probably one of the greatest creature features ever made. The characters are intelligent, the atmosphere is spot on, and, sorry, I'll mention that on the strengths. Now to get on to the strengths. The atmosphere is so greasy and grimy. It feels just as grimy and dirty and filthy as it looks. You know, the film has such a nastiness to it, and it's so immersive. It draws you in because for the first hour or so, for the first chunk of the movie, you get a few kills, but you don't see the creature that much, which is cool to hide the creature for most of the movie. And you would think that would be boring, because, we don't get to see the creature that much in the first half. But it's actually interesting because the characters make it interesting, and that brings me to my next point. The characters are fun. John Hall does a pretty good job as, the moral man. He's pretty good. And the lady, Jane, oh boy, she's hot. She's beautiful, honestly. My bud Jordan said she looked like a female Sylvester Stallone, and she really does, but still, she is gorgeous. And the music is absolutely phenomenal, and it adds to the horror. There's like a lot of choir music in there, and it just gives the atmosphere, like the look of the film, it just elevates everything so well. And Tucker Cleveland, holy shit, he is the greatest character in the movie, and he is played by Brad Dourif. I like the villain. Warwick is a good villain, but Brad Dourif is by far the best thing in this entire movie. He gives this really creepy, haunting monologue about a torture method the VC used in Vietnam, of where they would put a rat in this like tin thing, and it would like be a starving rat, and they'd put it in a tin on your stomach, and then they'd light the tin, and it would tunnel through your intestines and start eating you alive. Like, that's fucking horrible. And this might have been a real method of torture, and it makes the scene so much more powerful. And Brad, he just carries it so well. He actually starts crying throughout the scene. And it's not like weeping or anything. It's just the intensity. He's so caught up in the intensity that he actually sheds a tear. It's amazing. He's so over the top, too, but in such a good way. He's like the Captain Rhodes of this movie, honestly. He treats being an exterminator like as if he was like saving the world. And he did at one point, because he was in Vietnam, of course. But he treats it as if he was saving the world, and he has this vendetta against rats. Not only is he very, very serious about taking these fuckers out, he also has a vendetta against them. Be like, we shared their food with them, and they stab us in the back! You know, and he talks like that, and it is so fucking glorious. I love Brad Dourif. He seems to make almost every movie he's in a lot more watchable and a lot better. And now to Warwick. Warwick is a perfectly hateable douchebag. As soon as you see him, he has this sort of Mr. Richfield feeling to him. He's very misogynistic. He's just so slimy and sleazy, and it's clear this guy does not care about his workers. He just cares about his business. It's even revealed that he cheats on his wife with this girl, and after he puts her on duty to clean up the basement, she starts smashing his car, and then he tries to punch her, and then our boy John holds him back, and he's like, you know, and then Warwick is like, you win. He doesn't say anything, but he makes that face, and Warwick is so great. And you'd think that, yeah, this guy's a jerk, he's an asshole, he's a pretty miserable, awful boss. But you wouldn't think he'd go completely nuts at the end, and he does. He goes fucking insane and treats hunting this damn thing down like it's the war too, you know? And despite Brad being a more Tucker Cleveland being the best character in this movie, Warwick is a close contender because he takes this shit seriously. He paints his face black and he's like, I'm gonna kill that motherfucker. I don't think he says that, and he has this really weird accent. I can't really tell. I'm usually good with accents, but I can't really tell what accent he's putting on. It might be German or Dutch, maybe even Russian. I think maybe Russian. It might be Russian. I don't know. But he ends up losing his fucking mind towards the end after his other workers get killed by the monster, by the bat creature. And he ends up falling down like a mine shaft or something. And he lands in this pile of bones. But then when John and Jane find him, he just goes fucking crazy and kills Jane right the fuck out of nowhere. And then he gets in a little scuffle with John. And might I add, it's obviously a matte painting, and it's obviously a set they've got going on there, but it looks so interesting and it looks so creative. All these bones, they all tell a story. This thing has been here for a long, long time. There might even be more of them. We don't know. Because I actually have a theory about this creature, and I'll get into that later. But yeah, its lair it just tells everything you need to know about how dangerous this fucking thing is and how long it's been around. So you're probably wondering, has these killings been going on for a long time? And our boy fucking Warwick is trying to cover it up because he acts very suspicious throughout the movie. He acts like he's trying to cover shit up. And it's like, I don't think he knew exactly what was down there, but I think he knew something was going on, but chose to ignore it anyways. Now on to the creature effects. Wow. Fucking wow. The creature effects are amazing. This thing looks genuinely alive. If I saw this thing, if I saw the puppet, I would think that thing is real, and I would scream. This thing is horrifying looking. It's got like snot dripping out of it. It's all slimy and dirty and gross looking. It's just so amazing. But the one thing that didn't make sense is this thing's like a bat creature, right? And you'd expect it to fly and such. I think the more realistic reason why, like in terms of the real universe, is maybe they didn't have the budget to make it fly. But in my mind, like canonically, I think this thing is so old and so decrepit that it kind of lost the ability to fly because it doesn't really use its wings. It hangs upside down, but it just sort of crawls everywhere it goes, you know? It doesn't really fly. And I've seen this movie a couple times. I've seen this since childhood, and I've never seen this thing fly. So I think it's because it's really old. And also, the amount of bones in there sort of proves that this thing is super old. I don't know how long bats can live. I don't know how long this thing can live, because this is like some sort of super bat. But it's obviously very, very old, and I think that's why it couldn't fly. And the bat creature's death is so fucking gruesome, and it is so cool. You see, the bat, John, he gets out. He ends up getting out. He climbs up. And, oh yeah, that reminds me. There's one thing he did that makes sense. Most of the characters are pretty smart. I mean, most. Some of them are stupid, you know. But, the one dumb thing that our main guy, John, did was after Warwick gets killed by the fucking bat creature, he goes back and looks to make sure if he's got killed, and he's like, yeah. And I just think that was a waste of time. Like, you know, I mean, you heard from the context clues that this guy was getting eaten, and there's no escaping or surviving this motherfucker. So if I was him, I just would have ran, and he would have had a lot more time to get away. But anyways, how he defeats it is he gets out, of course. The bat creature follows him. He hooks him in the fucking skull, and that somehow doesn't kill it. But then its tail is near the machine that is set up in the beginning, and the button's all the way across the room. And throughout the movie, he uses like these Diet Pepsi bottles, or Diet Coke. Either Diet Pepsi, Diet Coke. I don't fucking care. I hate both those brands. But anyways, he has to shoot him at the button to, you know, get the gears going to pull that thing in and shred it to fuck, you know? So he tries it one time, it doesn't work, and then the tension's building. Its tail gets free! But then he shoots the one last fucking can, and it hits across the room, it hits the button, and bam! It's got the creature, it drags the thing in there, and it shrieks, and it shreds it, and there's blood everywhere. It's just such a great ending. I fucking love this movie so much. Now to the weaknesses, the very few weaknesses. Some of the stock sound effects are a little out of place. Like there's a scene where John and Jane they're lurking through the waters, and there's this coffin, presumably the coffin that killed Tucker, and I'll get into that in a minute. And when the coffin opens, there's this really stock scream sound, and it sounds terrible. And when Warwick's lady, not his wife, because we don't really see her, is like affair partner or whatever, when she gets eaten, there's this obviously dubbed fake scream there, and it sounds pretty stupid. But that's just a little minor complaint. Now, the one thing that is a major detriment to this movie is Tucker's character is wasted. He's set up to be this badass who takes his job really seriously, and I think if he would have known that there was a giant bat creature, he would have kicked this fucking thing to kingdom come. I'm talking this guy, he very much reminded me of Burt Gummer, but even more extreme. So I think it would have been cool if he was the one that pitched in towards the end. Even if he wasn't in there that much, he would have pitched in towards the end, and he would have delivered the final blow to this creature. Now, I still love the creature's death, and I love the ending and how it was executed, but I think it would have been even more cool if Tucker was the one that delivered the final blow, because there's so much setup of this guy. He knows how to handle himself. He knows what to do. And the reason why his character is wasted is because he has such a fucking lame death. He gets sent out to go to this graveyard by Warwick, which I think was intentional, because there's this look on his face like he knows that fucking grave is flimsy, and he knows something's gonna happen. He has this look. He's like, you know, he's got that look. So, his little pet dog, Moxie, which is a pretty ugly-ass dog. No offense, but it's pretty ugly looking. The dog, it runs into this, like, dark grave site, you know? So, fucking Tucker, he follows him in to save his dog. But then the fucking floors start falling in, and he's like, oh shit, and he's right behind the tombstone. But then it slides and it smashes his head and it sinks him all the way to the bottom, and it kills him. And I just thought that death was so fucking stupid. Like, I mean, maybe the death itself wasn't stupid, but I think that they had to kill Tucker off in such a shitty way compared to how cool he was. I think that was pretty stupid. I think the one who should have suffered that death specifically was maybe the bald-headed guy that got fired and left. I think maybe if Warwick was like, you know what, you're not fired, I've got a new job for you, you're gonna go near that grave thing, and that could prove a little more that he fucking hates this guy because he's been insulting him, you know, he's been talking shit about him. So I thought it'd be interesting if maybe he lured him, or like told him, gave him some false information, told him to go around that grave and do whatever, and that would kill him. Because I wouldn't mind that. I don't hate the bald guy, but I think that was a lot more fitting for him instead of Tucker Cleveland. And he got done so dirty in this movie. And the final flaw is the ending credits song is pretty dumb. It just takes a few snippets from the movie, like snippets of dialogue, the graveyard shift, show's over, you know, shit like that. And it plays it with the music, like, there's like a bunch of tapping. I don't know, it just doesn't sound right. But overall, this movie is magical. I absolutely love it. I'm gonna have to give it a 9 out of 10. It's honestly that enjoyable for me. It's one of those films that you can rewatch over and over, especially if you're like a fan of creature feature flicks. This movie was it was atmospheric, the monster was crazy, the characters were interesting, the acting was pretty damn good, and Brad Dourif steals every scene he's in. Well, guys, that was my review of Graveyard Shift, and I will see you all next time.
Show's over.